Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shujra and these are the headlines. Afghanistan's top peace negotiator Abdullah has accused the Taliban of not fulfilling their commitment to a reduction in violence. However, in an interview, he hoped the UN-led Istanbul meeting would help promote Afghan peace negotiations. Meanwhile, the Taliban have blamed the Kabul administration for killing 20 civilians in eastern Khost province. The United Nations has warned of a heightened risk of atrocity crimes in Myanmar. The warning comes after the death toll from Saturday's crackdown on anti-coup protesters rose to 141. Meanwhile, the military has killed 2 more people as the demonstrations against the February 1st coup continue across the country. In Bangladesh, dozens of people have been injured during violent protests against Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the country. Clashes between police and protesters erupted during a nationwide strike over the killing of 10 people in anti-Modi demonstrations. Earlier, the demonstrators blocked the main roads and railway tracks in different cities. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 2 explosive-laden boats of Yemen's Houthi rebels and 2 drones. The coalition said the boats were to be used in an attack from the Hodeidah port, while the drones were aimed at south of the kingdom. It comes days after U.S. Special Envoy Tim Lenderking returned to the region to push for a nationwide ceasefire. India has recorded nearly 63,000 COVID-19 cases overnight, the highest single-day tally since mid-October last year. The country has also registered the highest single-day deaths since Christmas, with 312 deaths since yesterday. In Pakistan, the government has decided to further tighten restriction amid rising coronavirus cases. Pakistan's daily case hit a 10-month high, with almost 4,800 people tested positive and 57 died overnight. The virus has infected more than 126 million people, claiming at least 2.7 million lives around the world. And in tennis, Russia's Andrei Rublev and Canada's Denis Shapovalov have breezed into the 3rd round of the Miami Open. Rublev beat American Tenny Sandgreen 6-1, 6-2 to advance ahead. Meanwhile, Shapovalov came from a set down to defeat Belarusian Ilya Ivashka 6-7, 6-4, and 6-4. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Afghanistan's top peace negotiator Abdullah has accused the Taliban of not fulfilling their commitment to a reduction in violence. Abdullah says it will be a big miscalculation if the Taliban think they can overrun the country by war after the withdrawal of U.S. troops. More in this report.
In an interview, Abdullah said, for successful negotiations, the ceasefire is not a precondition, but an absolute necessity. On the 1st of May deadline of U.S. pullout, he said the Doha deal is conditional. Abdullah said the U.S. committed to withdrawing troops in return for the Taliban agreeing to reduce violence significantly. He added, if both sides do not utilize the opportunity of inclusive peaceful settlement, there is a risk of war continuation. Meanwhile, the Taliban have blamed the Kabul administration for killing 20 civilians in eastern Khost province. In a statement, the group called on the UN mission to impartially investigate this civilian massacre and punish the perpetrators.
The United Nations has warned of a heightened risk of atrocity crimes in Myanmar. The warning comes after the death toll from Saturday's crackdown on anti-coup protesters rose to 141. In a statement, UN Chief Michelle Bachelet called the military's action shameful and brutal. She said the world community has a responsibility to protect the people of Myanmar from such crimes. Earlier, a dozen countries signed a declaration condemning the use of lethal force against civilians. Meanwhile, the Myanmar military has killed 2 more people as the demonstrations against the February 1st coup across the country. More than 440 civilians have so far been killed by the military. In Bangladesh, dozens of people have been injured during violent protests against Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the country. Clashes between police and protesters erupted during a nationwide strike over killing of 10 people in anti-Modi demonstrations. Police used rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse the protesters in Narayanganj city. The demonstrators took to the streets at Shimrail, Muchak, Mandanpur, and signboard areas in the city. Earlier, the protesters blocked the main roads and railway tracks in different cities. During Modi's visit, the protesters criticized his anti-Muslim policies and called him the butcher of Gujarat. Indian forces have martyred 2 more civilians in occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian district. The occupying troops have killed more than 300 people in the occupied valley during the 600-day siege. The youths were targeted during a siege in the Wangam area of the district. Indian troops held the entire population of the area hostage in one of its inhuman so-called cordon and search operation. They are carrying out house-to-house search in the area. The military operation was going on till the last reports came in. All parties' Hurriyat conference said India is trying to suppress the Kashmiri struggle for a right to self-determination through violence. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 2 explosive laden boats of Yemen's Houthis rebels and 2 drones. The coalition says it is taking the necessary operational measures in accordance with international humanitarian law. In a statement, the coalition said the boats were to be used in an attack from the Hudaydah port. It added the drones were aimed at southern cities of Saudi Arabia. This comes days after U.S. Special Envoy Tim Lenderking returned to the region to push for a nationwide ceasefire. Two suspected suicide bomb blasts have rocked a Catholic church in the Indonesian city of Makassar. The police say 14 people have been wounded in the explosion, which comes on the first day of the Easter Holy Week. A police spokesperson said there was a congregation underway inside the church when the blast occurred. Talking to the media, the spokesperson said 2 suspected bombers are believed to be only the fatalities. Police said authorities are looking into a radical network which the bombers came from. They said authorities are investigating whether the attack was linked to recent arrests of suspected militants. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. Brazil has recorded nearly 3,500 COVID-19 deaths for the 2nd day in a row and close to 868,000 infections. Globally, the virus has infected more than 126 million people, claiming at least 2.7 million lives. More on the pandemic in this report.
The governments around the world seem to be in a race to administer maximum vaccine doses and bring their countries back to normalcy. Health officials have rolled out more than 510 million coronavirus vaccine doses globally, but the deployment of jabs has been glaringly unequal, with the US accounting for more than a quarter of the global total. More than 50 million people in the United States have been fully vaccinated, while about 97.7 million have received at least 1 dose. Still, the country's tallies of new COVID-19 cases and deaths have started creeping up in the last few days. In the south, experts warn Brazil's coronavirus situation is likely to deteriorate more as they forecast the nation's death toll will pass the US by the end of the year. But in Sao Paulo, young Brazilians find it hard to stay at home or maintain distances, forcing police actions.
This
is yet another operation to raise awareness among these young people that they should not crowd together in times of the contagion. We are going through a very difficult period lacking ICU beds, and these young people insist on going out to have fun.
In Europe, the situation appears to be improving for the United Kingdom as the NHS has passed the milestone of administering 25 million first vaccine doses, while over 2.5 million people have now received their second dose. But France admits the situation is critical and added 3 more departments to the 16 already under tight restrictions. In once hard-hit Spain, some 5,000 music fans in Barcelona attended a rock concert after rapid COVID-19 tests. Health authorities approved the trial, which, if successful, could provide a route to recovery for the ravaged live music industry in Spain and beyond.
I believe that today we have made one thing a reality, which was to show the world that culture is safe, that things can be done well, and by doing them well, concerts like this, one of 5,000 people, can be carried out, which has been perfect at all times in safety and in quality.
The Philippines say it will reimpose tougher measures in the capital of Manila and nearby provinces in order to fight a surge in the infections. Meanwhile, Hong Kong says an initial investigation by Germany's BioNTech into its vaccine did not show any obvious systemic factors during packaging. The use of the vaccine was suspended in the city and neighboring Macau this week.
In Pakistan, the government has decided to further tighten restrictions amid rising coronavirus cases. Presiding the NCOC meeting, Asad Umar advised the provincial authorities to ensure strict compliance with the SOPs. The country reported 57 deaths and over 4,000 cases for the 4th consecutive day. There have been over 14,000 deaths and nearly 6,500 infections. Hindus across the world are celebrating the cultural and religious festival of Holi today. The event signifies the triumph of good over evil and is known as the Festival of Spring. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has greeted the country's Hindu community on the occasion. In Pakistan, Hindus are celebrating the day amid strict observance of COVID-19 protocols. Meanwhile, in India, this year's celebrations are being seen with skepticism as gatherings disregard the spike in coronavirus infections. The country has recorded nearly 63,000 cases overnight, the highest single-day tally since mid-October last year. The health ministry said with 312 deaths, single-day mortality figures were also at their highest since Christmas. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Some of the world's most iconic landmarks plunged into darkness to mark this year's Earth Hour. The Worldwide Fund for Nature started the event in Sydney in 2007. Earth Hour is now one of the world's largest grassroots movements for the environment. This year's event highlights the link between the destruction of nature and increasing outbreaks of diseases like COVID-19. In Pakistan, Prime Minister's office turned off its light to reiterate the country's commitment to preserving nature. Famous landmarks in cities such as Athens, Rome, Berlin, and Rio de Janeiro also turned off their lights. People filmed and cheered as the lights went out in Moscow's Red Square and the iconic Eiffel Tower in Paris. In Berlin, an activist dressed as a giant panda, which is the symbol of the WWF, switched off the lights in the city's Brandenburg Gate. Saudi Arabia has unveiled a campaign to tackle climate change and reduce carbon emissions. The initiative has been announced as energy giant Saudi Aramco faces scrutiny from investors over its emissions. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said the Saudi Green Initiative is aimed at reducing emissions using renewables to generate energy by 2030. His statement added that the world needs to go much faster in combating climate change. The prince said the plan also includes planting 10 billion trees in the coming decades. He called for tackling desertification, which poses an immediate economic risk. Saudi Arabia is facing the loss of $13 billion annually due to its sandstorms in the region. China's capital, Beijing, has been shuttered in thick dust, carrying extremely high levels of hazardous particles. Climatologists say this is the second sandstorm in 2 weeks is due to the winds from drought-hit Mongolia and northwestern China. The storm reduced visibility and forced pedestrians to cover their eyes as gusts of dust swept through the streets. Beijing's official air quality index reached a maximum level of 500. Earlier, China Meteorological Administration issued a yellow alert for Beijing, warning the city of the sandstorm. The Met Office says Beijing might face more sandstorms in April due to unfavorable weather. Egypt has set up multiple rescue plans to dislodge the giant container ship blocking the Suez Canal. Osama Rabi, the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority, says it remains unclear when the vessel will be refloated. At a press conference, Rabi said 14 tugboats are trying to dislodge the stranded vessel named Ever Given. He said the stern had begun to move on Friday night and that the rudder and the propeller had started working again. Some 9,000 tons of ballast water stored in the tanks to stabilize the ship has been removed to help lighten the vessel. He added the work is underway around the clock to get other ships through. Libya says an oil spill near Dara field in the country's north has been brought under control. In a statement, the National Oil Corporation said technical teams have managed to halt the leak. It added the leak did not affect production operations. The cause of the leak has not been yet confirmed. Dara oil field is one of the oldest in the country and has the daily production capacity of over 100,000 barrels. Most major stocks in the Gulf have gained as hopes for a global economic recovery boost investor sentiment. The Dubai Share Index led the gains, ascending nearly 0.5%. Benchmark indices of Saudi Arabia, Qatar gained marginally. Abu Dhabi's bourses traded fractionally above the flat line, but mostly flat. Kuwait Premier Index drifted slightly lower, with the National Industries Group slipping. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.news.